Let's just continue with our landscape material. For that, we need to create another material function. So we call this one MF layers, because now we want to take care of our layers. So open that one up. And also at the same time, we open up the MF textures we did previously. So what we do need is we need to get the input near, the input far, input, so all the red ones, all those function inputs basically, albedo, normal, and the RDO, okay? So you need all those red input functions. And then you can just Control C and you put them all into the new material function called layers, pretty easy stuff. And you can also, if you want to, right click and then alignment, align left. So then you have those things organized. So let me just put the normal RDO here and the albedo is hidden here. Okay, so we have those three textures here. Okay, and we do have the input distance logic and the bool. So if you want to use it or not. And we have the near and far blend, or the tiling, I should say. And also we do need the so-called MF textures material functions. So you can just get the material function textures here, and we just put it here in the center. And then we can just start by hooking them up one by one. So this is pretty simple. We have the albedo into the albedo. We get this function input, which is for our normal texture, and we get the RDO. So this is our stacked roughness, displacement and ambient occlusion. And then we do have the near. Put this into near. We have the far, and we hook that one up into far. Pretty simple stuff. We have the bool. If it's true or false, we put the distance blend static bool into the SB. So static bool into the use distance blend SB. And we have the input distance logic, which is a scalar function, or a function input called scalar. And we put this into the distance logic scalar, right? And then also what we did previously, we want to get for albedo, normal, and the RDO channel, the packed texture channel, we want to drag out from here and we get the add named reroute declaration node. And this is, I told you previously, acting like a cache. So the logic we have here from the output is just now buffered, or it is a cache. So we're just saving space basically. Nothing else we do. Then we add this one here as well. Add named reroute declaration node, and this is for the normal. Let's call this one texture, just to make sure. Albedo, also texture. Let's just add this. And for the RDO, we say add named reroute declaration node, and we call this one RDO texture. All right, so, and then we can, you know what, let's just select everything, press Q. Maybe you don't like that. I'm just a little different. So many people think like, what is this? But yeah, I just want to have this straight. You can also straighten connection here, boom. And then everything is fine. All right, so now we have that. So now before we hook all that stuff up here with our reroute nodes, let's give ourselves some more freedom regarding the color, so regarding the albedo. So for that, maybe we want to desaturate the color later, or maybe we want to have maybe a different color, maybe more vibrant, all that stuff. So we want to have some control later for our master material here. So what we do is we create another material, advanced material function, and we call this one MF for material function. Again, it's always the same stuff, but this time we do our logic inside here called albedo controls, okay? And when we open that one up, we need two function inputs. So the first function input is an input vector 3, so we need RGB channel first, and then we need another function input, but this time this one is not a vector, this one is a scalar, just a simple scalar. So the first one we just call this, so the first one, the actual albedo, we call it albedo. Okay. The second one, we call this one saturation. So this will be later our control to saturate or desaturate. So there's a node, you might have guessed it already when we just drag out here. There's something called desaturation. And we can control that by hooking the saturation, hooking that one up. You have to keep in mind when we increase the value of the of this input, of this scalar input, 0 means it's completely colorized, so the albedo is not going to change. But when we increase the value to something like 0.5 or 1, it's getting completely desaturated until it's like black and white. So, but this one is called saturation, so we can just invert the parameter by dragging out and get a 1-. So this is just preventing us that when we have a value of 0, now it's just opposite. 0 means it's completely desaturated, and 1 means it is saturated. It makes more sense. You don't need to do it, but in my case, I just want to invert this value, so it makes more sense to saturate it and have a higher value to actually saturate our albedo texture. If you don't care, you can just leave it and you don't need the 1-. Next thing we want to do is maybe we want to give it a tint and also want to change like the brightness maybe, or maybe we want to darken the texture. So what we do is we just copy this vector 3, okay? Let me just make this a little smaller. So maybe this looks a little better, so we save space. So that one, we keep pressing M and click, so we multiply this, we put this into B, because this will be multiplied, or the desaturation will be multiplied with the vector 3, so our albedo. And this, we call it just albedo tint. You will see it later, how this is going to work out. Let me give more space. And then we get another multiplier node, but this time we get the scalar parameter from the so-called saturation scalar parameter, and we call that one brightness. So we have the control to make it a little brighter if we need to or if you want to. All right. Then next to our tint and the brightness, we also want to have something to control the contrast. And there is a strategy to do that. Let's just copy this one again. So the albedo brightness, and we call this one albedo contrast. So we are just using the same function input. But in this case, we are using a so-called power node. And we put this one into the base, and we can just use this as an exponent to basically have more contrast. So this is basically what the power node is doing in this case. And then we can hook this one up. So for now, this is complete. And let's see, the vector here should have a sort priority. Keep it at 0. It's up to you. Then maybe the saturation we do 1. So this is just right after so this, we are just organizing things. So first, with our material function, we have the albedo itself. Then we want to saturate. Maybe after that, we put the tint. So this would be 2. Then after the tint, maybe this is the contrast. This would be 3. And then the brightness would be 4. So this is just how I want to have it. Feel free to sort out your things how you want that. Like, and what comes first, basically. Now we just apply and save, okay? Now we can use this albedo controls, so this whole function here, we can use it inside our MF layers. So we go back to our layers. Let's just give ourselves more space, and we can right click and we search for the albedo texture. Let's put it here. So just to make sure we have enough space. And then we can get the material function albedo controls. And then you see, okay, this is the one we just set up. Albedo, saturation, albedo tint, contrast, brightness. So yeah, you just created another material function. Perfect. Then you can hook this one up. Albedo, texture to albedo, pretty self-explanatory. And then you might have guessed it. We do have the saturation, but it's empty. And you realize already that Unreal Engine doesn't like empty inputs regarding the material function. He will always give us an error. He's always like getting pretty annoyed and angry. So what we need to do, of course, makes sense. We go back to our albedo controls. So let me just close the textures. We don't need it for now. So the albedo controls, and then we need the saturation, the tint, the brightness, and the contrast. Just Control C, and we put it inside here. Right click, and then just alignment left. Okay, just that we have something that we have aligned properly, and then we can use the contrast here. Then we get the brightness here, and we have the tint, which comes here, and we hook this one up, saturation. Pretty self-explanatory as well. And just drag select everything, press Q, and maybe you want to have this aligned properly. And boom, press Q again, drag select and press Q. All right, so for me, I just prefer to have this organized instead of like getting spaghetti here. I just like that, and I can still read everything. It's perfectly fine for me. Apply and save. Then we need to add another reroute node. So all the logic we have here, we just want to buffer it or having another cache. Just get another add named reroute declaration node, and we call this one albedo final. Okay. So this is basically now done. Then the next step would be to get more space again, and we just want to get the, we already did add a reroute, so just name reroutes here. So we use actually now the albedo final, which we just created here. So we can use that, and we get from here set material attributes. Okay, so we need that. So this has not really like, normally when you have like a master material inside landscape, you have like this make material attributes node, you might remember. And then you have all the stuff like ambient occlusion, color, roughness, displacement, specular, all that stuff. In this case, it's just empty for now, but when you click on this, you can get a new type. And when you open that one up, we just want to keep it at base color. Okay, so we are now we're taking care of our albedo, and we hook this one up inside base color, and then apply and save. So this means that all the logic we just built and enhanced, okay, is now goes directly into our material attributes called base color. This is pretty important. Now we can open up the material landscape. So let's go landscape. And we can now get rid of this material functions here. This one, also that one, also the multiply. For now, we can just get rid of that. Don't be afraid, because now we have the ability to get our big one here, which is the MF layers. Okay. And then we get the albedo into the albedo, the normal into the normal, the RDO is here, okay? So make sure everything's connected properly. Regarding the sorting here, we will just take care of that in a couple of minutes. Then distance blend, we don't need the distance blend here for now. This bool, we put this into the SB, use distance blend SB. This is the red one here. And then tiling far is also self-explanatory. And near, of course, into the near. We can take care of our so-called albedo tint. This is pretty simple to solve. So just keep holding 3 and click. So you have like a vector, a 3 vector basically. So it's a color map. And we can set this one to white by default. and then just hook the RGB channel into the tint. And as for the distance logic, we just deleted it previously, my fault. Just get the material distance blend. We can already hook that one up. Why? We shouldn't wait for that. We can just hook this up right away. So we also have the material function MF distance blend inside our MF distance distance logic. So the material function distance blend is connected to the distance logic, okay? Let me just put this like so, just to make it a little more obvious on what to, like how to deal with that. But we're going to do some cleanup later. But for now, we just hook this one up. Now, regarding the saturation, albedo contrast, and the brightness, we need to take care of those inputs as well because they are left behind. So keep holding or press 3, left click again. Now you have this constant 3 vector, again, just like the tint. But in this case, we just right click and convert this to a parameter. And we call that one albedo. How should we call that? Albedo controls, not albedo tint. We already have that. Albedo controls. Let's just, can we use a space bar? Yes, we can. Albedo controls. So the good thing about this constant 3 vector parameter, we just converted this one to a parameter, right? Not a constant. Now we can, after converting this to a parameter, we can do a parameter customization. This means we can open up the channel names. For example, for the red channel, we can use this for saturation. The green channel, we can use that, for example, if you want to, as the brightness adjustment. So each channel here has its purpose, and the blue channel then would be, of course, the contrast. All right. So now we have that. So instead of hooking up the RGB, we can now just hook up the saturation into the saturation, the brightness into the brightness, and the contrast into the contrast. Perfect. And now let's just drag select everything and press Q. So now this looks horrible for you. But now we can just maybe clean it up a little bit. Sometimes it's possible. Just, yeah, whatever. Let's do something like this. Maybe it's not really a good idea to stack everything because we have some valuable information here. And we get this one. And we have those 3 textures here. And you know what? Let me just put this one down here. I don't even care. I know it looks like spaghetti, but we can fix this a little bit later. So, but now make sure that you have all that connected like so. Okay, so now finally we can hook this one up into the landscape. So the problem is we cannot really, you can see material attributes is not compatible with a float 3. So this is, the output is a float 3, okay? In this case, we can just click on that and you see on the left-hand side here, you use material attributes. This is pretty handy. So when we click on that, now we converted this into a material attribute and now we can connect this float into our material attributes, okay? Let's apply and save. And now we can try out things if this is going to work. So our contrast and the brightness and stuff. I know it's a pretty bad example because we have like completely black, like a complete pitch black texture. So this is not really ideal, but still, if we just click on that material instance landscape, let's just open that one up. Now let me just close the layers in the M landscape for now. I cannot talk today. And then you can see those things, albedo controls. There's something missing. Wait, let me see. Something is missing. Let me check again the albedo controls because I'm looking for the tint. So the tint is connected here. This is perfect. Let me see the material. Where's the tint? Of course, it's not going to work. Right click, convert to parameter, and call this one albedo tint because I'm stupid. I forgot to change this also to a parameter. And then we can apply that. Otherwise, we will never see it in our material instance. Makes sense. So now we can close that. And now everything is black by default. Sorry for that. Let me just go into the landscape again. Because we make this, it is white by default. Default value, it's white. We can now check our landscape, so it's pitch black. Because our default values are at 0. This means we can check the brightness if it's going to work. And then, yes, you can see it is actually going to work. All right. So yeah, you can see it's like really noisy and blurry. Let me just get the saturation. You can see the saturation is working because when I change this from 0, it's a black and white texture anyway. So, but if I type 1, you can even see that the colors are getting are visible now. So we do know that this is working. As for the contrast, you can also play with the contrast. And now you see the contrast is working. So the default value is 1. And we do have an alpha. We don't need this alpha. You can just go into our M landscape. And as for the albedo controls, this parameter here we have here, we can call the alpha channel like not available, like NA or something. You can just call it like so if you want. So that we do know that this one is pretty useless. Okay, and let's try the albedo tint. So for the red, we can just increase the red channel. And then basically you can see it is giving us like a strong red color. Yes. Here you can see it also around those edges. It's red. It's turning into red. So this is working. We can also set the blue, the green channel, make it green. Let's do more. Let's do 100. Now you can see we have a strong green. So you can change the tint now as you like. And blue is also working. I mean, of course, it makes sense. Let's do all 1 by default. Okay, so let's just leave it all at 1. And you can RGB at tint. You can just leave. Yeah, we should also leave this as 1, 1, and 1. Okay. If we change the alpha, let me. Okay, it's not going to change anything. Good. And also this one is not going to change anything. All right, let's just save this material instance. And we can see, yes, everything is working. And still the blend is working. And we can disable the blend. Boom. Let me just, recompile the shaders. And we only have the near tiling. And we can use the distance blend again. Boom. And now you have distance blend also applied. And the tiling also is working. All right. So pretty insane. Pretty nice. Right, let's do 5 and save. So everything so far is working like a charm. Pretty good. Now let's close the material instance here. So we do know that this is working. Let's go back into the material function layers. We can just organize some things because this one, let's just call this one let's drag select and C, press C, and then we can call this one albedo controls. So we do know that this is our like tint, saturation, brightness, and contrast. All that stuff. And this whole thing here, let me just cue that again. And then C. And this one is just, we call this one, textures. So this is not only regarding our color. So this is for all the textures we have, like the all the channels we split, if you want to use the distance blend or not, the distance logic, so we can set the distance blend and we can have the near and the far tiling. So far this is it, okay? Nothing special. Apply and save. You can also give it a color. So let's do, for the textures, I don't know, let's do something like this. And albedo. When I think about albedo, I always think about something like brown, brown, orange. I'm not sure why. But let me just do it like so. Okay. And apply and save again. Okay, so now we have those things organized. Now we need to take care about the specular value. Specular is something, it's almost acting like this roughness or gloss map, but it's in technical terms it's different. It's just handling how light is basically distributing across the surface. Not really about the reflection intensity. This is regarding the roughness, but the specular is just how the light is basically interacting on a surface. So it can look like plastic and stuff. So by default, you can see the specular is not existent. So it's basically 0. This is why it's looking like plastic. So pretty boring. And we should not have something like this on our vegetation, right? We can have a so-called Fresnel, which is taking care about our specular. So we can basically adjust the specular intensity later along with our albedo map. So how can we do that? We get another material, you might have guessed it, advanced material function. Call this one material function, mf underscore Fresnel specular. So we are using the Fresnel value with this as the specular output. So let's just open that one up. And we need 2 function inputs. So the first function input would be just a vector, a 3 vector is fine. So we call that one albedo, because later we will hook this up into the albedo texture. So now we are just creating another input for the albedo texture. This is the reason why we do this again. I mean, you've seen this plenty of times now. And next to that, we want to multiply that by the Fresnel. So this means we need another function input. And this function input should be a scalar. So we just want to have the strength. So we just want to have one fixed value. And we call this one the specular intensity. So this is just, I need to correct myself. This is just the specular intensity value for now. As for the albedo, we want to mask out the red channel. So you can get a component mask. So later we will just use the red channel of the albedo. And when you click on that, make sure only the red channel is masked. So we do this, and then you can keep pressing M and click, and you get this red channel from our albedo. And we multiply that by our specular intensity. And then after that, we get a static switch parameter. And we call this one a Fresnel specular. I should say, let's do, because it's a switch. So use Fresnel specular, yes or no. So if this is false, so if we want to use that with our red channel, we put this into false. This is what I'm trying to tell you. So, but in case, if we want to use the Fresnel specular instead of using the red channel of our albedo multiplied by our specular intensity, now we have to build some more logic for our true input. So if we want to use the Fresnel specular, we need to do a little more logic. Okay, so for the true switch here basically, so if you want to use the Fresnel specular, we get another function input. So this is what we do all the time. But this time it's just a flat scalar parameter. Just make sure you change this to scalar parameter. And you call this one Fresnel amount. And after this, let's do a multiply. So we want to multiply our albedo masked red channel. So we want to do that, multiply this by the Fresnel amount. And after that, we need a lerp. So you can type in lerp, and then you have this so-called linear interpolate, or you just press L and click, and then you have that. And you can put this into the B because we want to lerp it with something which is the multiplied value by our masked channel from the albedo. So just take it and put it inside the A lerp. And then we can basically just use the Fresnel amount, and this is basically multiplied by our original value. But now you see, yeah, but there's something missing because this doesn't really make sense at all. It does once we add the Fresnel utility, this one, under utility, the Fresnel node, and we need to use, or we should use, a 1 minus, otherwise the value would be like completely, it's not going to make any sense. So we just invert the value, and then we put this into the alpha. And now we can just hook that one up. So we put this here, and this one would be true. So we can do our Fresnel exponent when we use our Fresnel specular. Okay, and this is true. We calculate this one here. If not, we just use the albedo red channel multiplied by the specular intensity. Okay, so we have two options on how to deal with our specular value, and then you can hook that one up. But make sure that the Fresnel specular is here set to 0, the sort priority, and we put this into a group called features, and the default value is enabled. Okay, just enable the default value. So this just means it's true. So clicking it means it's true. All right, so let me just clean that one up just to see what's going on here, but I think this is fine. So the albedo, let's leave it, the sort priority, let's leave it at 0. The specular intensity, we can put this down, so we use 1. And the Fresnel amount, we put this to 2. And this is it. Let's just apply and save, and that's it. Okay, so now we go back to our material function layers, all right? And we can see here is our output. So we are already dealing with our albedo final. And now we just add the Fresnel material function, Fresnel. So where is it? I think I'm blind. There, Fresnel specular. So that one. For the albedo, which is the vector 3, like a 3 vector node, we can just get our reroute albedo texture. Okay, so we get this one here. And as for the specular intensity and Fresnel amount, we can just get the input specular intensity and the Fresnel amount. Okay, just copy those two, and then we get this one here. So this is the intensity. Let's just make this smaller, and we can get the Fresnel amount and put this into the Fresnel amount. Boom. And then let's just align left. Okay, this is perfectly fine. So this whole result, like our specular function, we can just drag from here and add another named reroute declaration node, and we call this one specular final. So then we can hook this one up later into our specular channel. Apply and save. And now, once we have that, we can now get back to our set material attributes node, and we click on the plus. So we have two channels, and we set this one to, you might have guessed it, specular. And then pretty easy, I think now you start to understand how this is going to work. We get our specular final we just created here. So this whole logic is now here inside. And then we can just hook this one up and press Q, and let me just put this like so. And let me get maybe the same color. I don't really care about the color. I don't know. Yeah, let's do something like that. Maybe a little more. Yeah, okay, apply and save. Now we can get back to our master material, like our material landscape here. And you can see we have the Fresnel amount here, and we have the specular intensity, okay? We can get another constant 3 vector node and right click, and we convert this to a parameter, and we call this one a specular. And as for now, we can also here use the red and the green channel. We don't need the blue channel and the alpha, but for the red channel, we can just call this one specular intensity, and the green channel, we just call that one the Fresnel amount. As for the default values, let me just see here, open the default value. Specular intensity, let's just use 0.5 and the Fresnel amount maybe 0.3. Okay, and then we can just, the blue channel, we can just put this at 1. And as for the blue channel, let's also do an NA, so not available or not being used. And then we can get the red channel of this parameter here into specular intensity and Fresnel amount. Perfect. So yeah, we really need to organize those things later in our layers material function. But you know how to do that. You can just go into the material function here, and then you can click on all those red. Those are all our inputs, right? So when you see those red things, these are all inputs. They all have a sort priority. You just need to have the sort priority from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have that sorted here. Okay, so this is what we have to do. So now let's just save that, and let's just quickly go into, let me close the Fresnel specular, wait. Yes, for now we can close that one. Let's just try and see the material instance here, if we have this now available for us in our material instance, and we can see, yes, we do have that. So we can use the specular intensity and the Fresnel amount inside our material instance. The features, I was searching for the features, so just enable this. And then we can check the specular intensity. Let me do 0, let me do 1. So if you just disable the use Fresnel specular, so I just activated the bool, not the bool, the switch. And when you disable this one, so it's false, we're not using the Fresnel specular. Now you can see if I crank this one up, the specular intensity, you can see far in the distance. I know I have black and white textures, so this is like pretty useless to show you now. But you can see it in a far distance that this is working. So I hope you can see it on the white stuff. It's changing. So our specular intensity is working, and we can enable the use Fresnel specular. Yes, 0.3. So yeah, it's pretty hard to see, but it is working. So let's just leave it at 3. So now let's organize things. Let me drag this material instance here, the MF layers. So the MF layers, this is where all the magic happens. So albedo, normal, and RDO should be 0, 1, and 2, right? So let's just search for the albedo. This is the albedo, is 0. This is perfect. Normal is 1. RDO is 2. So the saturation specular mm, 0, 1, and 2. Then this should be 3. Yeah, let's just sort this one out. So 0, 1, and 2. Then we should use this one as 3. Yes, 4. 5, 6, so this is perfect. Saturation should be a 7. Tint should be 8. Then we can use the contrast. Should be 9. The brightness should be 10. Specular intensity should be 11, and Fresnel amount should be 12, right? Was it 11? Yeah, 11, 12. Let's just apply. Let's see. Our textures, near, far, use distance, blend, distance logic, saturation, albedo contrast, brightness, specular. Yeah, now this is sorted. And we can also go back to the where is it? Landscape, sorry for that. The Fresnel specular material function. So we do have that switch, right? We can set the priority here to something like 0, 1, 2. I mean, we have a separate group, so it's pretty useless. But we can put this one to 99, for example. Maybe this is fixing our issue here. No. it will be at the top. So, but I don't really care, to be honest. I think this is perfectly fine. You can also, if you want, you can rename those things like global static switch parameter value. You can change this to a distance blend, for example. You can also change those things here on the left-hand side when you click on those material functions. Okay, so what we could do here is we can clean this one up. So if we want to use the distance blend or not, this is hidden inside our material landscape, and we have this bool here. And do we want to use distance blend or not? We can set this one to, like default, let's just set this one to true. Why not? And for the group, we want to put this also into the features. So just type in features. And the sort priority, you can put this one to 1. Apply and save. And now we have that also inside the features. So it's pretty weird, like how Unreal Engine is handling this. So you cannot find the existing groups here. You need to just type it exactly like so. It's pretty weird, but then it's organized. So now this is a lot better and more handy to use. So now we also need to mask out our roughness because we want to also hook up our roughness. So let's go into the material function layers. So we do have now albedo final and the specular final, and let's just click on the set material attributes, add another channel called roughness. There, roughness. So how can we get this? Our roughness is packed inside our textures, right? So we do know that we have all the logic inside our texture logic here. And it's inside our RDO. So roughness, displacement, ambient occlusion. So we do know that this is inside this red channel. What we can do is we get the named reroutes. We need the RDO texture. And then we get a component mask. And we just want to use the red channel, so the roughness. We will pack the roughness inside our roughness, inside our red channel later. So it depends where it is packed, but we will do that when we create our textures. And then after this, let's just multiply this. So we have control to basically like increase the intensity or decrease the intensity of the roughness, which is pretty important. For that, you might have guessed it, we just get a function input, just as a scalar is already enough. And we call this one roughness intensity. And hook this one up into the multiply. And then we can add named reroute declaration node, and we call this one roughness final. This is already final. And let me get, for all those final things, let me get one color. You can also go and get this thing here, copy this, okay, and put it inside here as well. And then you get this and put this into the hex as RGB. Boom. So we have the same color for all the final reroute nodes. So now we can just get into the right click, named reroutes, and then you can get the roughness final as well. And you hook this up to roughness final. Yeah. Mark, select everything, boom. Press Q, apply, and save. Now we're getting teleported here because now we have a new input, and as I told you before several times, material functions where an input is missing, Unreal Engine is not happy about that. So we can, for that, we can just abuse the specular, the vector 3 parameter here, and we can use the blue channel for that. We can just use this channel. Why not? Roughness intensity. And we put this one into the roughness intensity. Apply and save. And just make sure that you have those default values here. Specular intensity 0.5, Fresnel amount 0.3, roughness intensity is 1, and everything is fine. Okay, so now let's test this out. Maybe we should do specular /roughness, so we do know that we also have a roughness intensity inside. And when we go to our material instance here, maybe just let's get the direction light. Let's get the direction light so we can see it a little better. Okay, so let's try it out. Now we have this specular roughness here. So now, yeah, we can play with the roughness intensity now, and you can see, I need to apologize again for those bad textures. I was just using that so we do know what kind of texture is visible, but as for pitch black texture, of course you cannot see the reflections, but we can see it in the far distance. I can see it, that the roughness value is reacting to that. Yes, so let's do 1 by default. So you can see, if you look at this albedo here, if I set this to 0, boom, and then back to 1, 0, 1, then you can see that the reflection is gone. So it is working. All right, so here you can see it better. Fresnel amount. So you can see if I set this one to something really high, you can see at the text is changing the specular, the Fresnel amount. Also the specular here, 0 and 1, you can see it's working. So 0.5 is good. And roughness, 0 and 1. 0 and 1. Perfect. Let's set this to something like 0.3. Okay, so now let's do our normal. So this is also something what's missing. For that, you might have guessed it, we go into material, advanced material function, we call this one MF, and also you might have guessed it, normal. So for that, we just get another function input. For this is a vector 3, so a normal map is also always a vector 3 node. And we call this one normal. And we need to mask out, basically, so the blue channel is always like separate. We cannot just, when we use a multiplier or like a power node and we want to increase the normal intensity, for example, we cannot just increase RGB at the same time. We need to mask out, like we need to remove the blue channel from the normal map. Otherwise, it's not really going to work. A normal map is always reacting a little different. So this is the reason why we need to get a component mask, and we only want to affect, when we want to like strengthen it, we only want to affect the red and green, which is perfect for us now. And then we can just multiply this. So with what? Another function input, you might have guessed. But this one, of course, is just a scalar parameter. So basically a 0 to 1 value, and we multiply this with this scalar parameter. After this, you need not an add, you need an append node, which is an append vector. So just get this one. And we want to put the RG, like the red and green channel of our normal map, which gets strengthened or intensified in this case here. Once we change this value, the scalar value, we want to append this with a so-called component mask. So just get another component mask. But this time we use the other way around. We only want to append this to the B channel of our normal map. And put it like so. And then you are good to go. Apply and save. And then you can just get the input into the output. So, or from the output, we connect this one here. Let's check. So the normal vector itself should be kept at 0, sort priority, but the intensity, we should rename this. Sorry for that. Normal intensity is set to 1. So first we have the normal map itself, and then after this, when we just choose our normal map, just after that we have this sort priority 1, and then we can just append this RG, red and green channel. We will just intensify that. So this is why we multiply this scalar parameter, and masking out the blue channel. And after this, after we intensified only, or like after we only strengthened the red and green channel, then we can append this value, this multiplied value on top of our masked blue channel. So the blue channel is basically not affected. Yeah, I hope you understand what I'm trying to tell you. So now we can go back to the MF layers, and now this is already like also pretty self-explanatory. Let me organize things. Let me just put it here, and then we can get the normal intensity here. So the material function normal, and I forgot to change something. So this is the normal intensity. I'm sorry for that, and this is the normal. Okay, so now we have that. So the output of this material function here, and now we have this as an input of our material function. For the normal here, just right click, get the normal texture. So the normal texture is that. As for the normal intensity, you can just get a function input, or you can just copy this one from our MF normal, doesn't really matter. And you change this one to scalar, and you set this one, you rename this one to normal intensity. Make this a little more slim and put this into the intensity. And then we can add a named reroute declaration node and call this one normal final. Let's click on this roughness final. So I get this hex sRGB value, copy this and put it inside this hex sRGB value. Press OK. So we have the exact same color. Boom. Queue that. Let's also queue this. Yeah. And then we can get the normal final. So click here, set material attributes, click on the plus, get the normal, and then just right click named reroute nodes and get the normal final. Boom. That's it. Select everything and queue that, apply and save. Now he's teleporting us again to the landscape material itself, and we have the normal intensity. That means for the normal intensity, we can just use this one here. So we already have two values for the specular. You can remember, or you do remember. And for the roughness, we're just abusing the blue channel. And now we can just use the alpha channel for normal. So you just use this as the normal intensity. Boom. And then you can hook up this normal intensity here into the normal intensity. Apply, save. Then I want to have the normal intensity after the normal and the roughness intensity after the RDO. So let's go to the MF layers. And we see the normal intensity here, which is 0. And that is not good. So when we have the normal albedo is 0 and normal itself is 1, right? So then this is 3. So this should be 4 and 5. Let's set this normal intensity to something like 3 and the roughness intensity to 4. Just play around with those values here. This should be 3. Yeah, okay, it's fine. It's not perfect, but it's okay. It's okay. Let's just leave it like so. I mean, you can really completely organize everything, but then you have to switch all those sort priorities for all those inputs. It's pretty annoying. For now, it's okay. And now we can just go back to the MI landscape. Let me just close everything here. So only the material instance landscape. And then, of course, we don't really have a normal map, so this is pretty useless to try out. But now you should see the normal intensity here. So you can set this to 0. And you see it's going to change. But of course, it's not a normal map. It's just black and white, as you already know. But we can see that those values are changing our texture. Let's keep it at 0.5 for now. Okay, so now let's organize when we go to our landscape material, like our landscape material. We do have next to that the MF layers. So the episode is all about those layers, right? We do have the textures. So this is for every texture. We have our albedo controls, which is already hooked up here. We have the Fresnel, so we can change our specular, which is pretty cool, with the usage of Fresnel, with the Fresnel node. And this is the roughness, so we can also do like a roughness intensity and stuff. Nothing special, just base settings we can change. Let's get the specular, I don't know, something like this. This value maybe. Yeah. Roughness For roughness, I just keep it black and white, or maybe like something grayish. And we have the normal. And as for the normal, this is pretty simple what color I will use. So you do know already, I will use some kind of like blue, greenish color. Boom. And there we have that. So only like the ambient occlusion, we need to take care of that. Okay, so regarding the ambient occlusion, let's do another material function. And we call this one MF. Gray is scale controls. Just like albedo controls, we want to do something regarding our ambient occlusion. So for that, we get another function input. It is always the same stuff. For this, because it's just black and white, basically 0 or 1, something in between, a scalar parameter is fine. And for that, we get a so-called 3-point levels. So under Los Angeles, you can also just get this one here. And we hook this texture up. So this one, we call it grayscale texture. And let me get some space. And we need another function, input, also just a scalar. And let's just copy this 2 times. So we have 3. Let's make them slim. So when you see the node, then you already have a clue what I'm about to do. This one is the grayscale black value. This is for the grayscale middle value. And this is the grayscale white value. Black goes into black, gray goes into gray, or in this case, middle goes into middle, and white goes into the white. And let's also just connect that. And then we can leave this at 0. This one then should be 1. This should be then 2. And this should be 3. So we have the right order. And we can apply and save. Drag, select everything again here. Press Q so everything is sweet. Maybe it's something like this. Press Q again. We need those 3 scalar parameters, black, gray, and white. So black, middle, white, I should say in this case. You just copy that. And then we go back into our layers. We put this one into layers. And then we also get the one we just created. Where is it? The grayscale controls. Yes, this one. And you might have guessed it. We hook this one up. White into white. Middle is middle and black is black. And we have a grayscale texture here. So for the ambient occlusion, he's asking for the grayscale texture, which is then the ambient occlusion. Makes sense. We remember when we look at roughness, we are using the RDO and mask the red channel because our roughness would be in our red channel when we stack it, when we prepare that texture. So inside our stacked texture, we have also the green and blue channel. So for the green, which will be displacement, but for the blue channel, we will have the blue channel is the ambient occlusion, right? So let's just copy this with the mask and just change this mask to blue. And then we put this one here, connect it. Then let me just align that, drag, select everything, press Q, perfect. Apply and save. And we should rename those things. So let me get this one. This is the grayscale black. So we just call this ambient occlusion black. This one would be ambient occlusion middle. And this is the ambient occlusion white. So this is really cool with that node that we can just have this separate here, 3-point levels. Pretty nice as for the grayscale. This also gives us more control for the displacement and all that stuff. Okay, and then we get an add named rewrote declaration node again. We call this one ambient occlusion, or just name it AO if you're lazy. Drag, select, press Q, perfect. And then we go here to our set material attributes. And of course, we get another channel, which would be the ambient occlusion, makes sense. And then right click, named, and we get the ambient occlusion. But I should name this final. So final, let me get the same color here. So the hex sRGB, open the ambient occlusion color and paste it here. Boom. There we have it. Let's just align that, and we put this one here. So just make it a little more even. And this one is called the ambient occlusion. And as for the ambient occlusion, I give it a black color. Boom. So we can see this is the ambient occlusion. And then hook this one up into the ambient occlusion. Boom, press Q. Let's get this one like so. Oh my God, come on. Perfect. Apply and save. Again, we are getting teleported here. So we have this grayscale stuff, black, middle, and white. Okay, so now what you need to do before we add our albedo controls, and not the albedo controls, before we add our AO controls for all 3 levels here. So before we hook that one up, the grayscale, black, white, and black, middle, and white, let's go to the MF layers, because we have the albedo controls here, right? Let me put this on top, because this is the whole texture stuff, the whole texture logic, and this is our albedo controls. I'm a little bit annoyed by the color, so let me get this a little more yellow, maybe this a little less, like more orange. And let me put it, yeah, I don't care, let's do like so. As for the ambient texture, as for the ambient occlusion, we need to make a little more space here. So just drag this one out. Because as for the AO, to get this to work, we need to add our AO final, and we get a multiply node, and we hook this up, and we multiply it by the ambient occlusion final. Then we can put this into the albedo. Okay, so this is just for us making sure that our ambient occlusion is working properly. And then apply and save. So now we can go back to our material instance, the material landscape. So the material itself for our landscape. And we can just copy the albedo tint, or you can just press 3 and click, left click, convert this to a parameter, and we call this one AO. I don't even care. Let's just call this ambient occlusion. Or we should call this one AO controls. Then you can, down here, you can call the red channel AO black, the green channel AO middle for gray, like the perfect gray value, and AO white. And then you can hook this one up, the black into the black, the middle into middle, and white into the white. Apply and save. As for the default values, let's do black, keep it at 0, the gray, so middle is 0.5, and the white, keep it at 1. And the alpha you can leave at 0 or 1, I don't care. Let's just leave it at 1. It doesn't really matter. And now we can test things out, which means when we go again to our material instance, we should see the ambient occlusion. So we do have the ambient controls, of course, which we cannot really see. Let's try. If maybe we can see something. So let's do black default. Yeah, default. You can see that the ambient occlusion is working. Gray should be at 0.5 and white should be at 1. So yeah, you can see that this is going to work. Specular roughness. So now we have a lot of controls. We're getting somewhere. So yeah, we checked everything. So everything is being affected, and this is a good sign. This is already nice. So we can save that. I give you some homework now. Because this is a mess, you can see like normal albedo, everything is like completely out of place. we can just realign everything. So we should start with albedo, then normal, then RDO. Then we should have space for the displacement. No, we should not, because the RDO, the displacement, is already inside there. Sorry for that. But yeah, we need to go into layers. But inside the layers, we should have the albedo to 0, the normal. Yeah, sorry for that. It's pretty annoying. The normal is 1. So let me just remove those spaghetti things here. Input RDO is a 2, and let's leave space just to make sure. 0, 1, and 2, and then we would have 3. Then this should be 4. This should be 5. Then we should have the saturation at 6, 7, 8, 9. Then we put this at 10. This one should be 11. And after that, no, this should not be 10 and 11. After the brightness, which is 9, then we should have this one at 10. Then this one at 11. Roughness intensity is 12. Normal intensity is 13. This should be 13, yes, 14, 15, 16. And then we can use this one as 17. And this one should be 18. So now we have that. So let me just realign everything here. And just let me put this like so. And then drag select everything inside, press Q. And we align them to the left. And this is how fast you can clean up. Okay, let's apply and save. So now when we go back to the landscape, we should see now it's better. We have albedo, normal, RDO, near, far. Then we can play with the albedo controls, saturation, albedo, albedo contrast, brightness, spectral intensity, Fresnel amount, roughness intensity, normal intensity. This is okay. Ambient occlusion, black, middle, white, and then yes. Okay, this is perfect. I'm pretty happy with this. Now let's drag select everything, press Q. And yes, you are freaking out, I understand. We need to switch brightness and contrast. So albedo brightness. This is 9 and this is 8. So now this should be 9 and this should be 8. Apply, save. Yes, and the tint should be on top. So tint and saturation. So this one is, this should be 7 and this should be 6. Apply and save. Perfect. So now we have that. Everything is now organized. Now you can see how clean that is. Perfect. So apply and save. Now you're good to go. We have everything sorted out. We just created our layer, and you can see we have all our textures here, and we have now full control regarding the albedo controls, the ambient occlusion controls in detail, the normal intensity, the roughness intensity, the specular we can just change. Added the Fresnel regarding the specular, and we can decide if we want to use distance blend, and we can also tile the distance to like a near and also a far. But yeah, this is old news, you know that already. But I think this is it, a pretty long episode, but now we have all the complex logic for now, which is good.